Welcome back to this week's episode of the Broken Kid Podcast. Today we're going to get right into it. We're going to be talking about one of my favorite idols and, who I want to, well, I don't know if I should say who I want to be like, because some shit came out about him. And no, I'm not talking about some Hollywood director, but I am talking about a Hollywood star. Depending on who you are, you might not think he's a star, and especially with what happened within the last few years. But who I am referring to is Ryan Reynolds. This is somebody who I used to love his movies about. I used to love his movies, and I still do. I don't know why I say used to. But I remember being 15, watching the first Deadpool, and just being mesmerized by how he could take the screen, and he was talking about cock and titties and pussy and shit, and he was getting away with it, and he's a superhero. Superheroes aren't supposed to do that, and yet here he is looking like a Freddy Krueger ass motherfucker. And he's getting all the bitches and shit. And I thought, wow, he's not necessarily like the strongest. Like, he's not like a bodybuilder looking type. He's not the handsomest anymore. But he's pretty funny. He's funny to everyone. He's funny to himself and funny to like people who find him funny as the audience. But he's annoying as hell to everybody. So he's kind of like me. And except in the regard where if I got shot, I wouldn't come back from that. And I know that with the things that I say to people, there's probably a lot of people who want to shoot me, especially in the type of neighborhood I live in. That being said, being a kid, I was choked, slapped, I've been punched, I've had my hair pulled, I've had toys thrown at me, I've had black eyes, I've had a guitar smashed over my head once, I've had the cops threatened on me for no fucking reason. That's called growing up in an abusive household. And I was like, wow, Deadpool isn't too far from me. One day, I'll get cancer, and I probably will, and hopefully I don't get it. But that's one more way to get closer to being like Deadpool, and training to be, being a mercenary. Weirdly enough, I've always kind of wanted to be one. But anyhow, I'm going to be talking about the time that I met Ryan Reynolds, and this actually happened at a premiere. It was at the premiere for one of his shitty movies that nobody ever really saw. It was that movie where, you probably never heard of it, but it was that stupid movie where he plays a snail, Turbo, and Snoop Dogg did some like music for that song and for the soundtrack, and it was fricka nasty. We'll cut that joke out. Anyhow, it was I was there. I was much younger, and I was a kid, and I remember being so excited because, keep in mind, Turbo came out around like circa 2011, 2012, maybe 2013, and his career wasn't doing too well. This was after X-Men Origins in 2009, where he played Deadpool, the crappy version. This was after the only thing he had done in 2009 that was kind of good, was The Proposal. Before that, he did Definitely Maybe. And of course, Van Wilder. And for those who don't know, he was actually on a talk show host, or not a talk show host. He was on a sitcom, Two Guys a Girl on a Pizza Place, but that doesn't matter. Going back to the crappy movies that he's made, which he's made a lot. And this is coming from somebody who likes him, even with the stuff that's come out with him, the Justin Baloney and, Blake Deadly or Blake Lively, whatever the hell her name is. This was after X-Men Origins. This was after, I think he was on after Green Lantern. And then I think after he did Turbo, he would go on to make another terrible movie, and that would be called the RIPD, the Rest in Peace Department, which is what his career should have done, which I don't know how it didn't. And yet again, this is coming from somebody who likes him. Like, if you can see that. I think you can see that Deadpool poster, and then look, we're gonna get like Quentin Tarantino with this shit. That poster. God damn it! It's like I'm shooting a fucking. And then that poster, and then look, if you look up at the sky, there's a Ryan Reynolds movie, and then if you look over there, there's the It Ends With Us, and we all saw how that shit happened. It did not end with just them. It did not end with just them on set. It ended. It never ended. It still hasn't ended. There's literally a Reddit forum dedicated to hating these motherfuckers. And here's what I've said before. Justin Baldoni, I don't even know if this thing is it right? Here. I don't know what it is. Like, I don't know what's gonna happen to him, but here's my theory: Justin Baldoni or Justin Baloney, Justin whoever gives a flying fuck about his name or what he's done. Only thing I've ever liked him in, and I didn't even like him then, was in that episode of Zack and Cody when he plays like the pretentious Lothario, who's like a sword fencer thing or whatever. And even then, he was annoying as hell. In this movie, he's darker than Darth Vader. He is scary. But I'm talking about him as a person. He plays the whole feminist act. Now, look, I doubt he's a feminist. I'm sure he probably like hires hookers and snorts blow off their bums and shit. Look, anyhow, yeah. But going back, this was during back to the Ryan Reynolds thing. It's not about those two, the other two people. I was there on the premiere, and at the time, um, uh, one of my relatives, they knew somebody who was, who was like a reporter, and they were able to they were able to snag us some tickets to the premiere. Now, this is if you've never been to a premiere, it's a pretty big deal. It's the premiere. Now, even if it's a shitty movie, there's a lot of people that they're like, they're just excited to be there because, they're trying to get a name for themselves, and sometimes the way journalists get a name for themselves is by starting at the bottom and getting movies like this. And I'm sure like a lot of journalists followed Ryan Reynolds' career. They were there at, X-Men Origins. They were there at, Green Lantern. And they're like, man, this guy's making a lot of bad movies. They were there during the release of this movie. Turbo is a terrible movie. It is literally Cars. For those of you who have not seen it, it is Cars, but for snails. And with snails also comes humans. It's almost like the B movie, but without the romance part where a woman wants to have a relationship with a bee. But yeah, we knew somebody who was a journalist, and they were able to get us two extra tickets. And I went with one of my, with somebody who was like, I guess you could say like a guardian, somebody who was there to, watch over me. But they really weren't watching over me because they had this like really cool catering service, and they had drinks and food. And of course, they ended up leaving me alone, unattended, as if I was a childhood star in Hollywood, unattended with a bunch of adults who had a bunch of cameras who could have easily taken me to a trailer or any area in that parking lot, and no one would have questioned it, and they could have taken pictures of me naked. But anyhow, this guardian who wasn't really protecting me or watching over me, they were at the bar drinking and drinking and drinking, and I later found out that they ended up going home with a transvestite, which was a whole story in of itself. I could make a whole video on that. But anyhow, this, for those of you who don't know, premieres are a big deal, and there's like protocol, like they do the everything is set up before the actors show up, and then they show up, and it's like the red carpet, and that's when people kind of it's when the actors are there, and they're on the red carpet, and there's the backdrop, and there's all those logos like Sony, and it has the logo of the movie, and they're like, Ryan, over here. And this was during the time when he was still, I think he was dating Blake Lively. He was definitely with her, but I don't know if they were dating or if they had gone to the next title of being married. But people were crazy over that. They were like, that was like the thing that saved them. That they were like, they looked like a happy couple. Now, for those of you who don't know, he left Scarlett Johansson, which I don't know if that was a good choice or a bad choice. I don't really know. This is his dating history. He might as well be a man whore. Anyhow, and that's not a bad thing. But this is he comes to he came to the finish line in the movie really fast. I'm just saying that in life he probably didn't come fast, if you know what I'm saying. But anyhow, the stars are finally arriving, and I'm there, and I'm small as hell, so I can't see anything. I can't see, I'm behind all these photographers, and they're flashing, and I kind of work my way to the front, and I'm waiting to see Ryan Reynolds, and and it's funny because he voices a snail. He's not really physically in it, so I'm waiting to see him, and I finally see him, and I'm kind of trying to keep track of him. They're doing these interviews like, what was your favorite part of this movie? And he probably was thinking the end of the movie, like it is for like the last 5 years of any movie I've done, because they've all been shitty, and I don't even know how much he got paid for that. But he was doing all that, and I was trying to catch up to him, and people, he was doing autographs and all this and taking pictures, and they were asking him questions again. I was able to kind of like sneak. So what I ended up doing is the premiere culminates with the movie actually playing. So you go to like there's a theater, and it's beautiful, and it's got it's usually like to get people write their reviews from there. So what I ended up doing is there's a different section, at least for this premiere, where the main actors go, and they have like a backstage area, and then they have like a separate area where they watch the movie. It's in the same theater, just a different section where it's kind of just sheltered off from everybody else. I don't know why you would want to watch your own movie, especially if you make shitty movies like Ryan Reynolds. And keep in mind, this is coming from somebody who likes him. Oh, and anyhow, all like Ryan Reynolds and Maroon 5, those are all things that I like. I don't know what the hell it is with them with scandals, but I don't think anybody's immune from scandals. But anyhow, I see him entering this room, and like security's following him. So I do this really stupid thing because at 12 you're stupid and you don't really think. And now as an adult dumbass, I still don't think. So I decided to like sneak under the red rope, and I decided to like enter this building, and it's a hallway, and I'm able to see he goes to his room, and he's there with Blake, like Blake Lively goes in there, and I'm like, damn, I have a chance. Like, there's no security because security's outside. So I'm thinking this is my chance. So I go up to the door, and there's a there's a sheet that says Ryan Reynolds, and it's in a star. Ryan Reynolds, and then outlined by a star, which was anything. He was anything but a star because he was making shitty movies, and again, somebody who likes him. So I decided to knock, and they don't open the door, and I hear, like, I thought they were fighting. I hear yelling and screaming, and I hear somebody calling Ryan, like Ryan, like they were like. I was like, oh, they sound excited. Sound like a roller coaster. And stuff was being thrown around, and I thought they were fighting. So I knock again, and nothing. And to my surprise, I open the door, and guess what I see? I see a young, hot Blake Lively and a young Ryan Reynolds. I'm getting turned on just talking about this. Literally, fucking like going at it like two deers that have rabies in the woods. They were like, and they. I don't know if they didn't notice me, but what I saw was like a volcano eruption. I might as well have been a victim in Pompeii. Like, literally, that wall was covered in Ryan Reynolds' jizz. If jizz was just like the volcanic lava, I would have been like evaporated right then and there. There would have been nothing but a shadow. That girl, Blake Lively, let me just tell you, she might as well have been Casper. She might as well have been like, what's that, like the Pillsbury Doughboy or whatever, that, like the Pillsbury Doughboy or whatever. She might as well have been him. And anyhow, they're done. She gets off of him. They both look at me, and we're like shocked. I'm shocked because I just saw two famous people naked, and I was like, whoa. Holy crap. So anyhow, you're probably wondering what the hell happens from here. I'll tell you what happens from here. He fucking gets out of bed, he's covered up. I'm like, damn, I wish I looked like that when I go get older, and I wish I could pull bitches like that, like him. Anyhow, yeah, so what he ends up doing to me is he's like, get over here, you little asshole. And I'm like, no, Ryan. I was like, Mr. Reynolds, I'm one of your biggest fans, and I don't know if I'm a bigger fan of you or her now. And he's like, he like slaps me across the face. He's like, don't you ever say that about my goddamn wife. And I said, okay. I was like, I just wanted an autograph. That's all I wanted. He's like, you want an autograph? Huh? How's this for a goddamn autograph? And he literally like punches me in the face again. He puts my shirt over my head, and I'm like, stop. And in all this happening, nobody is stopping anything. Blake Lively, I mean, she probably couldn't see anything because she's covered in his, And anyhow, in his snail slug. And Anyhow, what he decides to do is he decides to grab a plastic bag and put me in it, and he, like, literally, like, I don't feel, I feel like I'm kidnapped by ISIS. I'm like in this, I'm all dark and shit in the bag, and I can't see anything. And he's like carrying me, and he literally, like, I hear the door open. I'm like, thank God he's gonna let me down. I hear another door open, and it sounds like a dumpster. I'm like, oh shit! And he literally, I mean, he literally is Deadpool. He like hurled me. I was like probably like 80 pounds or 90 pounds. He hurled me into the garbage can, and then it closed. And he ends up locking it with a lock. And for like about 3 hours, I'm knocking, let me out, let me out. And I missed the movie premiere at this point. It's dark, and then I hear somebody opening it, and guess who? It was Ryan Reynolds. He said, "You ever try that shit again? It won't be just the next thing you won't go into won't be into a goddamn dumpster. It'll be in a coffin, and you won't get out this time." And I was like, "Oh!" And I was like, "Can I have your autograph?" He's like, "Yeah, you deserve it after everything you've been through." And he literally signs it on my forehead. And like I said, my guardian went home with, like, to a hotel with somebody. I was stranded there, and I eventually got home. But yeah, I mean, shit, that's one hell of a story. But for a while I couldn't watch his movies until he came out with a Deadpool. Then it kind of like I forgave him for it, and then he made more shitty movies like with COVID. I don't know why. And then I kind of didn't forgive him. And then he made the thing with Blake Lively, the whole incident, and then I really didn't forgive him. But this is a story of don't meet your heroes, because you meet them, that cape quickly disappears.